Hello and a very warm welcome to all the viewers and listeners of Zero Filter podcast. My guest today is a global thought leader who bridges the gap between data and human connection. She holds a PhD in strategic communication and serves on the Harvard Business Review Advisory Board. She is ranked as top 100 thought leaders globally and is one of the top 15 experts in Athens. Please welcome Dr. Avra Lyraki. So I know it is afternoon in Athens. Dr. Avra, thank you so much for your time and spending some time to be on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for the invitation.
So I'm excited to have this communication with you today because you have had a very long journey of dealing with experts from various domains, and you particularly specialize in working with leaders, people who hold important positions. So, my first question to you, Dr. Avra, would be about the high stakes communication situations in which people have high stakes involved, cases in which big decisions can lead to big impact, and any example if you could share wherein the style or the way in which people have communicated has led to a completely different message so that we can probably understand how important the uh, effective communication as a skill in our lives is.
Okay. So, look, there are several things that are happening, not just necessarily on a sea level, especially when it comes to how you communicate something and, how that is perceived. So, I would say that one situation where how something was said mattered more than what was said is when actually we give critical feedback to someone who cares deeply about their work. And that can happen to all levels. So this is, we're now like in the season. So most of my clients are struggling with I need to convey that message, but how am I going to do it? So the reality is that I've seen, for example, the same message, really land in different ways. I would say. So, for example, you may say to someone, this part needs improvement. That can either shut them down or motivate them, purely based on how it is framed. So, for example, if someone says it bluntly or let's say publicly, for example, it can feel like an attack. But if you share that privately, with genuine curiosity and respect, so for example, it could be, I can see the effort here. Can we explore another approach? What do you think? Which is purely, let's say, the coaching way. Then it often feels like support rather than criticism. And that's what I have seen. So, really the words themselves don't change much. But what changes is whether the person, feels respected, safe, and understood. So the emotional, I would say, context ends up being really more influential than the actual content of the feedback. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but this is like, I would say, an everyday example that can be found in all parts of decision making and communicating somehow feedback, because feedback is happening not only through performance reviews. Every day we're communicating, we're sharing something, we're expecting something, we need to be clear about something. So that kind of conversation or these conversations, happen across all levels in an organization.
I think, yeah, it brings a very interesting insight since you talked about performance review season. I can relate with this, and anybody who is working in the corporate can relate with this situation wherein feedback is being communicated and how important it is to communicate in the right manner. Uh, I would like to ask you regarding a real life experience. For example, let's say I myself am a part of this corporate world, and many people I have met who are in the corporate who find it very difficult to convey any, let's say, new idea, probably if they have, to the team, thinking that in case they do so, they might be criticized or they might not be welcomed a lot, because of which probably even a lot of good ideas, a lot of good changes which could be made in the team or probably in the project which they're working on. They never really happen. So how can someone who is a part of this corporate game convey their ideas more effectively to make sure that whatever they have in their mind gets communicated throughout, let's say, the team, and it gets a consideration?
Okay, so I would say the first part is you do your homework. If you are preparing for, let's say, suggesting, proposing something that's new, you need to do your research, your thesis, as I'm saying to my clients. So once you've done that, make sure to align whatever you found with, how your idea aligns with the broader vision and mission of the company you're working for. Okay, so you need to be aligned somehow because you belong in a system. Now, the way
Mhm.
that you are going to present it, I would say through clarity and providing hard and soft data so that you can convince, people that need to support your idea um, in a way that it's clear and you really show the benefit to the organization. That's, I would say, that would be, let's say, a really fast kind of tip because I know that we don't have that much time for that podcast. But I would say, clarity and homework, means a lot.
Mhm. So clarity and homework are the two important things anybody who is considering to convey their ideas to the team, to the upper management, that would
Yeah,
create.
when I'm talking about homework, yeah, I, yeah. And of course, when I'm saying homework, just to make sure that the audience understands correctly, is content. You cannot have communication without content. So, but the question is, how is your content structured? So it's like a tree diagram. So you need to really know, really very, very well your subject, or the proposal, or whatever you're talking about. Explore all aspects and prepare for challenging conversations. Because when you want to present something, first of all, you need to do your research and then address how your idea solves something the organization is actively looking for and is interested in. And then, of course, present with clarity and, show how your vision aligns with a greater company vision.
Mhm. Okay, I think that's a very interesting insight. To this, I would like to add a very real life, challenging situation. And the situation which usually arises is if somebody, let's say, has an idea, they would like to convey it, they have done the homework, they have prepared the content. Usually, a doubt arises in the mind: what if this idea gets rejected? What if, let's say, people just, disregard this idea and then they make fun of it? Probably because of this, many people never even discuss anything new that they would like to convey to the team, or probably things that could have been done better because of the fear of rejection. Uh, Many ideas get uh, disregarded or get less of a consideration in someone's mind. How can somebody overcome this fear of rejection related to their ideas so that even if it gets rejected, they're still okay? Uh, at least I did my work.
First of all, the only person who has never failed is the person who has never tried, right? So I would say, even if you propose something new in the organization and it gets rejected, it really shows that at least you had, the guts and you took the initiative to present something that was not there before. Now, you really don't know the outcome, and the rejection might be for reasons probably, the time has not come yet. I have personally experienced that over and over again. Back in my senior corporate years, I came with all sorts of ideas, all sorts of projects. Not all of them were approved back then. But later on, with persistence and with trying to align, my idea with whatever was happening, in the ecosystem of the company in general, I tried again. I think it's part of the game. you know? And it doesn't really matter because even if you, let's say, propose something or have an idea, and even if it gets rejected, at the end of the day, you would be one of the people that's tried something new. And that is something that is there and nobody can take it from you. Now, of course, if you feel that you're in an environment that you constantly come up with ideas, but then it's so traditional, it's so in a kind of a fixed mindset, then there are other, let's say, discussions that you need to have, first of all, with yourselves, and second of all, with your coach. But I think that's something that happens. It's like if you ask someone, do you like this? He might say, or they might say yes or no. It's fine. It's part of the process actually.
Mm. So I think sharing of ideas should become more of a habit. Uh, while communicating the ideas, we should not really consider uh, a lot of rejection or negative thoughts in our mind before conveying the idea to the people. Now, given the fact that there is so much, I would say, innovation happening today, we have the field of AI which is progressing at a very fast pace. So you being in a domain in which you are required to connect with people, work with people, what part of communication do you think could never be replaced by artificial intelligence, or what part would still require a lot of human intervention? Because there's a lot of fear today that we might lose our jobs. Daily new agents are coming in terms of artificial intelligence. They can do the Excel work, they can do the customer support work. Which parts, according to you, are irreplaceable by artificial intelligence?
Thank you for asking me this question because I have published an article about AI in coaching and AI and how it will shape executive presence. So look, what's happening. AI is a tool. Okay, it's a great tool. So I can say that, for example, one thing that it can never be able to read is, for example, what experienced leaders can do is to notice, for example, the mood in the room. So when they go and they present in board of directors or in general, so when you enter a room in general, you know, leaders, they pick up on quiet signals, hesitation, forced agreement, silence, or tension. So even when data looks right, these cues can show that people don't really agree, okay, or are afraid to speak or sense a problem that hasn't been said out loud. Now, AI can read data, but it can't fully sense when something feels off, with people. That's something that, at least for now, we don't know what's going to happen, next because we are moving, with the speed of light, in the speed of light, with AI. But I think that's the sense. And all the tools that use AI, even for coaching, they are really on a surface level. It's something that it's, pretty much on like the first grade, I would say. So that's my insight on this.
Mm. I think that's a very interesting insight, and I have a question related to this. Since many people are using artificial intelligence to build virtual connections these days, people are asking ChatGPT to be their therapist. They're asking, let's say, Gemini to help them with their emotional well-being. Do you think this is helpful for a person, or do you think that therapy or coaching can never be replaced by artificial intelligence?
Again, I believe that on a surface level, if you have a question, you can go to ChatGPT. I mean, I know that many people are doing that. But when you want to dig deeper, definitely cannot replace the human factor. It just can't. And I can give you an example. So, for example, I'm a master certified coach and I'm also an ICF assessor. So that means that I'm listening to recordings for other coaches to get their credential from ICF. So When you coach someone on a really, let's say, deep level, presence is number one. So this is something that you sense. We humans can sense each other if we are trained to do so. Now, I'm not really sure that, ChatGPT and Gemini or anything else, can really feel on that deep level, like the sigh, the pose, the way our eyes are looking, which direction, our slight movements, our energy in our body. I'm not really sure unless we have, let's say, cables all over us, maybe. But that's not a realistic scenario. So I feel that, from what I see now, and what humans prefer to have other humans, in that sense. When it comes to really, really, really solving, their questions and, going deeper. Now, on a surface level, they can use whatever they want, but it's not going to be the same.
Mhm. Yeah. Uh, I can share an example which I experienced recently. It was in the news all over that many people were using an AI tool to build virtual relationships. And then one code was changed at the back end from that application. And many people ended up losing their relationships. They had an online breakup because of that single line of code change at the back end.
Okay.
So, yeah, probably this is something, a human to human connection is something that can never be replaced by AI when we talk about the deeper aspects. This still at the surface level, at least till now, uh, a very interesting perspective. And Dr. Afra, you have worked in leadership domain. You have helped people who are sitting at high stakes positions. I would like to get your perspective on leadership. Do you think that leadership is something that gets considered or is relevant for somebody only if they are at a position, at a higher position in the, let's say, organization? Or leadership is something that is relevant for each and every individual in their day to day lives?
Mm-hmm. Definitely the second, I would say. People tend to misunderstand that, well, you are a leader even if you have a title. It doesn't work like that. Actually, you have to be a leader, pretty early on before acquiring a title in order to preserve the title, if that makes sense. So I feel no leadership. It's considered actually it's a character strength leadership. Some people have it and they can use it, and there's something that we can all have, and it means literally about self leadership, or the way that I interpret that is how I can really be responsible, be accountable to myself. How can I really coach myself? How can I lead myself? And that's the name of my website, Loves Life Self Coaching, mainly because it all starts with us. So I will just say that leadership is a trait. It's actually a character strength, and it's something that it's great, and we can all cultivate that, because it's definitely needed. And when we actually have worked towards the direction, when we actually, um, hold a position, a leadership position, it's much easier for us to be able to be fair towards ourselves, as much as we are towards other people.
Mhm. Okay. So, I would like you to expand a bit on this because what usually happens is, let's say, when we talk about leadership or something that requires some sort of leading of other people, there's an, I would say, inherent fear that will I be able to lead somebody? Will somebody be following my instructions? Will people be following what I am expecting them to do? Will they be doing that work or not? Because of which I believe some people naturally become afraid of leading others, whereas some people are very good at it if they have worked on it for a long while. So if somebody is there who has never been a leader, who probably has always tried to run away from this type of responsibility, I would say. How can someone build or cultivate this quality, this trait of leadership?
Mhm. In order for anyone to become a better leader, is to invest in themselves. So it's not really about, making people do whatever I say if I'm a leader. That's not the right way. The right way for me, at least, because you asked me, is to actually be aware of how someone acts, and what are their strengths, what are their saboteurs, how is their communication with themselves, and of course with their team. And I would say then it would make, sense for them to start leading successfully. And that is the number one thing that when people come to coaching, they're really looking for self awareness. So successful leaders, are self aware. At least they strive to be self-aware, because we cannot really be 100% self-aware, right? But at least they are doing that work with themselves. So when you're doing that work with yourself, instantly you tend to understand people better, and definitely you lead them through coaching. So when you use coaching in the way that you lead, the only thing that you gain, and which is something really, really important, not just the only thing, but I think the most important thing that a leader can gain is trust. Because the way you communicate through coaching approaches with your team, it builds momentum, it builds trust. And when people are, the team is trusting the leader and vice versa, then you can see that everything will happen flawlessly. Whereas if you see a leader who is more autocratic and micromanaging their team, it will fail. I have seen that several times, again and again. It doesn't last long. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. So, usually, what happens in corporates is there's a common complaint which comes from employees. They share their experiences. If we check, let's say, websites on which anonymous reviews of organizations could be posted, a common experience, let's say a negative experience, usually people post is about micromanagement, that somebody who is working above them in the organization, they are constantly keeping a check on whatever their juniors are doing. If we ask those people, why are you doing micromanagement? To them, it is, let's say, they want to get the tasks done efficiently, because of which they are doing micromanagement. So, do you think micromanagement helps in increasing productivity or efficiency, as claimed by some leaders at a few organizations?
Look, I think that micromanaging is not helping. What is helping is having frequent check-ins with your team, in regards to the goals that you both as a team and leader have agreed on, and monitoring the KPIs. So I would say frequent check-ins. So you need to allow some space for the other person, to just unleash their creativity, just do the work in the way they would like to do it. So it really depends. For me, it has never worked. um Personally, I could never work with a micromanager. Instead, I would say, whenever I'm just thinking, back in my, years when I was working, in corporations, the first thing I was saying to my boss is just, I just want you to trust me and I will deliver. Because if you micromanage me, I will never deliver and we will both fail. So I think that was a fair and honest, discussion and initiative I took. So I feel that yes, especially with Gen Z, micromanaging definitely it's not working, because we are talking about a whole different generation. And I have also, shared something on LinkedIn which I really love and enjoy. And I feel that's true because I have interactions. I love being around young people. I have a son who is a Gen Zer. So it's like, Gen Z does not want a boss, they want a coach. So because their style and the way they have been raised Across cultures, again, it's totally different. So micromanaging, I think it's dying, if you ask me. You cannot really be successful long term if you micromanage people, simply because if you have to deal with Gen Z, they are going to just resign easily without a
Yeah.
second thought.
Yeah, I think the attrition is going to increase if we have a lot of micromanagement in an organization. And uh, usually some type of news that I have seen is that companies are launching new types of applications in which they can even detect the eyes of employees, whether they are focused on screen or not, to detect if they're working or not. That is like ultimate level of micromanagement to measure productivity. But yeah, an important insight from your perspective is it is not going to increase productivity, rather it is going to be increasing pressure, fear, or probably I would say a feeling of dissatisfaction among people who are getting micromanaged by the people, by their seniors. So, Dr. Abra, now I would like to ask you something about availability, which usually in simple sense would mean we all have experienced it in our lives, and then I would connect it to leadership as well. uh, what happens is people who are empathetic in nature, who have a lot of empathy, they tend to be available for others a lot. If somebody needs some help, let's say in their job, in their personal life, many people are there who are even willing to sacrifice their own time just to help others. And then ultimately what usually is an outcome of this situation is that they end up being taken for granted. Being too available leads to I would say lack of respect among others, uh, uh, for somebody who is too available. I would like to get your perspective on this. Like, does being too available, you know, uh, affect a person's overall, I would say, productivity, mental state, and how can somebody overcome this if somebody is empathetic in nature, especially in a leadership position? Does being too available affect their respect or their position in any way?
If the leader has clear boundaries, no.
Mhm.
So, what does it mean being available? Many companies have the coffee chats that they can have on their calendar. So, that means that you have a structured way of being available. So, if that's answering your question, I think that might work. So, having, let's say, for example, a CEO who, despite their heavy schedule, they have, let's say, a certain, day or a few hours, Friday usually, that they can have like a coffee chat with anyone in the company.
Mhm.
That still is, availability, but it's somehow a structure availability because you really need to have like clear boundaries here. Okay.
Mhm.
So I feel that this is something that only helps. One tip that I always share, with my CLO clients is that, you really have, for example, you really need to have some coffee chats, with the base of the company, like, even the interns of the company. So, because you really need to get that pulse, you really need to understand because what's happening there when you are a CEO, not many people tell you no.
Mhm.
Not many people tell you necessarily the truth or challenge you. And that's why many C levels, come to executive coaches like me because they know they will have a partner who trust and, confidentiality is there. But with their permission, I will stretch them. I will challenge them, something that they cannot really find. So I would say, yes, being available in a structured manner and listening the whole organization with a certain plan, that really helps because you get really useful insights of how you can lead or even manage even more efficiently.
Mhm. Okay, that's I would say a very practical perspective from a leadership perspective. Uh, And what about somebody who is probably not a leader, but they are, let's say, empathetic, they are very, uh, you know, emotionally sensitive type of people. They uh, usually have a hard time saying no to anybody, even when it leads to crossing of their boundaries. So, how can somebody probably overcome this fear of saying no and setting clear boundaries in terms of their availability, even when it requires probably for them to sacrifice their own time sometimes?
This is a coaching topic that cannot be exhausted in one question. I don't know if that's answering your question. I mean, usually I work with female leaders that struggle with that topic. I cannot really give you there's no recipe that's serving all. Each and every one has a different ask, and each and every one of us, have a different way of, you know, either being available, either being too empathetic. So I would say this is like a question that it would be, I mean, it's really tailored for each and every person. So I cannot really give you like a clear answer. This is something that people can do, you know? And I'm not going there because I know that all we are all different and we all work and function in a really different manner.
Mhm. Okay, okay. So it is more about getting to know yourself first and then figure out the ways, I would say, where you feel like you are unable to set clear boundaries, and probably then speak with somebody who can probably guide you in terms of getting more aware and then walking this path.
Yeah, definitely, because it has to do with self-awareness. I mean, the question is how the way that someone acts really helps them or gets in the way of them. That's the question. So that's totally different for each and every one of us.
Mhm. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, based on my experience, yeah, I can understand what you're trying to say. And Dr. Avra, since you have spoken with many people from different countries, 18 plus countries, you've worked with people who are, again, uh, at leadership positions. I would like to get your insight on somebody, let's say, who we see uh, on camera, or probably, let's say, somebody who is in the corporate at a very senior position without disclosing a lot. Uh, what is something or what type of insecurity have you observed that people at big positions also face, but we usually never get to see that? What is that common insecurity that you have come across out from your own journey of uh, dealing with people, mentoring people, coaching people? What is a common insecurity that people at even big levels usually face off camera?
It no, it's not connected with a culture. It's connected all of them, from across, the globe. And I'm working with many, many clients is executive visibility, how they can really influence in general and across, the region, regardless where they come from. No,
Mhm.
so this is something that people struggle a lot. How they can be perceived as thought leaders, how they can really influence, how they can lead more successfully. And what is leadership? Leadership is basically how you can communicate that vision, right? And gathering people around you, following that vision. If you cannot communicate that vision, right, you cannot really lead in a sense. So that's the difference. And I would say that the number one thing that people come to me and they are asked, regardless where they come from, is how they can really empower their executive visibility and leadership presence. That's the number one thing if that answers your question, regardless of culture.
Mhm. So this is something that you have commonly noticed in terms of insecurity, let's say, faced by people from different cultures. And let's say if somebody, uh, yeah, if you would like to say something, yeah, please. So
No, no, no. I don't have to add any.
okay, okay, okay. So I wanted to ask you regarding this, since you talked about the way they are going to get perceived, uh, and if somebody is at a leadership position. If somebody is not at a leadership position, I would say how someone gets perceived is a fear we all have come across commonly in our lives as well. If you were to throw some light on how we can probably manage this part or not leading to delay of actions because of getting stuck in the loop of how it will get perceived. We don't say something or we don't convey something because of this fear of how the perception of other people is going to be about us. If you could throw some light on how can somebody overcome this fear of getting perceived by others, probably this leads to action paralysis as well. We are not able to act because of this fear of perception. Uh, we get afraid. How will we be perceived by others if we do this, if we do that, if we take an action? So, how can somebody probably overcome this fear or at least start working on this, insecurity?
It all starts if you believe in yourself. So if you believe in yourself and you really know what you're doing, that you are an expert in what you're doing, and you work really hard, and you know you're a subject matter expert in whatever field, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's something that you don't necessarily care, if that makes sense. So you do your job really well, and then presence is not about being the number one in social media. Executive presence has nothing to do with seeing a person's being, like photographed in several events or something. No, that's not that. It's just being meaningfully by adding value. In social media, could be on LinkedIn, for example, or anywhere else. Adding value through something that really helps other people. So I would say that you cannot really, the question is a bit like, it has to do with self esteem again. It has to do with how much you believe in what you do. Because if you believe in what you do and you really know yourself as much as you can, again, self awareness, that shows that, that cannot really bother you that much because this is part of the game
Mhm.
and you need to keep trying again and again.
Mhm. I think, yeah, you give a very interesting and a very realistic example of not getting photographed on social media or posting your photographs on social media is the real leadership.
No, that's something that I mean, it's something that we all do, but it's not the only thing that we do, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the source from which it is coming is something that somebody who wants to be a leader or probably wants to overcome this fear of getting perceived needs to overcome as instead of focusing on how you're going to get perceived out on the social media, out how many images, how many impressions, how many likes your images are going to be getting, instead of focusing on that, if you focus on the core idea of being confident enough, whether you have done, research or whether whatever you're trying to convey is, you know, according to you, strong enough or not, that should be the perspective instead of getting the maximum number of likes or views on, let's say, the social media and then getting perceived as a leader, which is, I think, happening a lot today.
For me, it's about adding value.
Yeah.
That's all. It's about adding value in your field. So if you add value in your field and you really know well the field that you are serving, then everything else falls into place. Okay, so that's how, and actually that's the thing that I'm usually discussing with my clients, that you cannot really have executive presence without doing much work or be a subject matter expert in your field, because sooner or later, you know people will find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there are no shortcuts to leadership. So Dr. Avra, thank you so much for sharing so many insights, so many meaningful insights, and your perspectives throughout your leadership coaching journey. Towards the end, I would just like to ask you a simple question, and that's the closing question for today's episode. Uh, what advice would you like to give to somebody who is struggling with some fear? They don't have leadership skills. They're usually afraid of going out there to convey something or to lead other people. They're afraid of giving instructions or probably ask for something, let's say even some help as well. People who are struggling with confidence, how can they build themselves, their personality as a leader in their life so that they can, first of all, lead themselves and lead others as well?
Mhm. I would say know your field really, really well because you draw confidence from what you know really well. So that's the first step. And I would say that, yes, of course, not all people will like you, and that's fine. Actually, if everyone liked you, that would be a problem. So I would say really know your field, keep investing in yourself, in the area that you are a subject matter expert, and give back to the community by adding your knowledge, your insights on that specific field, and that will instantly give you some kind of confidence in that niche that you are, but that niche will actually help other areas in your life as well. So that would be, let's say, a brief kind of guidance, if I can say so. Really know your topic and add value, and people will follow. Actually, if they see you that you really know your topic and you are trying to help, and you are a subject matter expert in your field, instantly, you will start drawing the right people who understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's a very solid insight. Thank you so much for the interesting aspects and the interesting perspectives you have shared today, Dr. Abra. I think it is going to be a value packed episode, packed with a lot of insights, with a lot of knowledge which you have shared. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights. Looking forward to probably have more such conversations with you in the future. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Abra.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much, Prince.